We're coming up on 9 o'clock. I'd like to remind everybody to turn off or mute your cell phones and other electronic devices. This is the regular meeting of the Mills County Commissioners Court, Monday, July 11th. If you would join me in standing for the pledge and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have granted us. Father, be with us as we do the business of Mills County. Father, bless our land with some much needed rain. Father, be with us as we go about our business. Father, be with Jed Guerin today as he's having little problems. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, present, we have County Judge Commissioners Wright, Parton, and Williams. Commissioner Guerin is absent. This constitutes a quorum. And so the meeting is legally convened. Also present in the courtroom, we have the county attorney, the county treasurer, and the county clerk. First item on our agenda is review of the minutes of June 27th. Has the court had opportunity to review the minutes? If so, are there any corrections or amendments?
I saw none. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Williams to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Wright. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have approved the minutes. Audience with individuals, we have Mr. Gary Stiles that has signed up to speak regarding the Windmill Hill subdivision. Mr. Stiles, you have your choice of, you can speak now, or we've got it as an item on the agenda if you'd like to defer until we get to it. Okay, thank you. Item 4 is review and act on accounts payable. These were distributed Friday, although I understand from Commissioner Wright, there were some electronic glitches, at least on his side. Has everybody had a chance to review them? While you are, Ms. Scott, I had a question. There was a relatively large court reporter charge. Was that related to a recent appeal from district court?
Yes.
Okay.
The only question I saw is that from the last commissioner's court, we tabled paying for law enforcement badges. Did we go ahead and pay that? Because I don't see it on this invoice. At $1,400. So is it still pending?
I'm not sure what happened to that. I don't know whether they chose to pay it by credit card after it was researched. I'm not sure. Nobody has communicated with me on that.
Okay, yeah, I talked to the vendor, I talked to law enforcement. Those were, I want to say embroidered badges, but they're really more of an embroidered stick-on badge with Velcro or adhesive that goes on caps and vests and jackets and windbreakers as opposed to metal badges. A chunk of it was the initial art setup fee, and then the rest of it was, I think, 50 or 52 appliques. So we had a question. No one was here from law enforcement to explain what it was. So that's what it was. I can't answer.
Yeah, I was just assuming it would be on today's bills. And that's not there, so.
Okay. I think the vendor was GT Distributors, as I recall.
What is the tactical gear on page 7? Is that the gear that they want?
I mean, I can't tell from this report. Maybe the treasurer can. the body armor request that was tabled a couple of meetings ago totaled about $19,000. So that's not, yeah. And the last I talked to the sheriff, he was looking at either grants or a fundraiser on that.
And just several different deals with us like that.
I don't see anyone here from the sheriff's office, so we can't ask.
On precinct 4, I bought 2 cattle guards, met the county's requirements on those cattle guards. Actually had a house mover went across them, but they were old, they were worn out, and they broke when we went across them.
It looked like it was one cattle guard and something called materials. Is that?
It was actually
miscoded?
2 cattle guards.
Okay. And if you look, we have an expense in the ARA grant cost center, that $400, that was the surveyor charge where we had staked the corner of a potential building.
Is the county, and Jason talking about these cattle guards, I thought we moved where the landowners would pay for them. Cattle guards.
Well, these have been in the road since way before I was over there. So
If we
and,
were installing one, clearly they would.
and so they just wore out and broke, so I had to replace them. But they're in the road, they have to be replaced.
I thought that the landowner was responsible for it. I thought that's what we passed here, where they would have to install them and close the road down, whatever else.
I don't remember that the landowner, if he wanted them, if he wanted a new one, he had to buy it, but since these are already there.
These aren't his entrance, this is.
No, this is on the road to get down to like 5 or 6 people.
Did they have to be there?
Yeah, you're going through about 4 different places.
I know I had to replace a couple of them several years ago before we passed that, and I thought the county passed it where the landowners would be responsible for it.
I would say if we have some cattle guard specifications, and once cattle guard, part of the specifications is placed on the county road, it's the county's.
Yeah.
Maintain the place.
If the landowner actually donated or built or whatever the cattle guard is, and built it according to the county's specifications, once the county accepts it, it's the county. And it would be the county's obligation at that point.
Jason, in regards to your question on the sheriff badges, they have not submitted the invoice for payment in.
Well, I just didn't want to miss it if we needed to. That's all. I mean,
think
it was in today's minutes, and so I just want to make sure.
So it's actually in the county road?
Yes, sir. There's 3 of them on this road. It's, if you know where Charles and Laquita Hicks place is on the other side of 40. You're very familiar.
Yes.
Anyway, there's a private road that comes off of it, and they're wanting me to fix that cattle guard because it's broke too. And I said, nope, that's a private road. So they're mad because I wouldn't fix that cattle guard. There's 3 of them going to it.
We had a standoff between 2 tractors. The sheriff car was on.
That's the
Any,
only question I had on it.
any further discussion or questions on the accounts payable? And if not, is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the accounts payables as written.
We have a motion from Commissioner Williams to approve payment of the accounts payable. Is there a second?
Second,
We have a second from Commissioner Wright. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, it's the monthly consent agenda. I'll just quickly flip through the items. Might point out the extension agent's report was distributed over the weekend, so it showed up late. We've got let's say the treasurer's report, but I don't see it.
It's on computer.
Okay,
Here's a written one. if you need it.
okay, yeah, should have printed it. For the treasurer's report, there's in the quarterly investment report should show our balances in text pool and CDs. There's the appraisal district collection report. Some minor collections continuing to come in. Overall, we're at 98.9% of the tax roll for the year. We have uncollected current year assessments at the end of June of $39,914. And the big uncollected amount is 2 years ago. There's about $350,000 in the aggregate that's under appeal from Encore, and that appeal is before a state appellate court, and there's no outcome date on the calendar that I'm aware of. Commissioner Williams?
No.
No. Okay.
What I learned on this is if you got money, you can prolong things for a long time.
Well, following that, we have the reports from our county clerk and district clerk. You can see the collection fee, collect the fees from the county clerk, 11,007, and the district clerk at of $3,800. We do not have a report from the tax assessor collector's office this month. That'll be in the next agenda or whenever we can get the report. County extension agent report. This is the one that came in this morning. You can see it's about almost just under 700 miles traveled in the month, with most of those 4-H roundup in College Station.
And what's the note, Judge? It's the 615 and 616. You'll notice that they found a bunch of dead cattle out at Mr. Crawford's place. And he's doing a bunch of prussic acid testing. So I guess the Johnson grass is just perfect.
Had they recently cut hay out there?
I don't think so.
It was an old, it was an old field. It came back as prussic acid, but they also posted one of the cows. She had an extra large amount of nightshade in her too. But it killed 7 cows that day.
And then there's the next one was that testing out at Roundtrees. And it's that's what it says.
Yeah, I had a citizen complaint a week ago about cattle grazing Johnson grass in the right of way. And it wasn't that they were concerned about the traffic safety. They were concerned about the precedent.
This
The
is
funny thing about that pasture at Crawford, that pasture has been open. You know, most of the time when it gets them is when you turn in on it. They had been traveling through that pasture. I guess that little Johnson grass just came up, and most of the time if we see it, it's in the fall when the Johnson grass is dying down. This was very, very lush green Johnson grass this time.
I just wanted to make note of that. Jeff.
Thank you. The sheriff's report for the month, and see 230 calls for service. 51 of them are EMS. That continues to run about 20% of the call volume. The balance of the calls are mostly law enforcement. There were 14 fire calls. Interesting thing, you see 40 new jail bookings, 14 arrests by local sheriff's deputies. And then the prisoner housing bill for the month, $16,800. which if you annualize it, that's around 200,000 a year. I think the budget assumed 140, so it's performing well ahead of budget. Coryell County is the largest single host, contributor with $10,000 billboarding. We have the JP report for the month. Just a quick read through, highlight on it. Line 2 on the first page, you see new cases filed, 97 new traffic cases, and 15 other cases. Cases disposed of is line 10, 48 traffic cases and 8 other disposed of. So about half of the new filings. Second page is civil cases. You can see on line 2, the new cases filed 3 and cases disposed of at line 13 of 2. The juvenile report is all zeros. And then on the last page, some of the interesting stuff on the top, there was 47 different magistrations last month. That generally tracks with the 40 jail bookings. The reason it's different is people can be booked on multiple charges, and each charge produces a separate magistration. You can see that 6 of the 47 resulted in a request for a county-paid defense attorney. And then inquest on line 15, there were 2 that the county conducted. I believe that was the traffic accident, the dual fatality accident up on Highway 84 a couple of weeks ago. The judge's report is not much. The senior center was rented 1 time and 4 septic permits were issued. Mills County EMS reporting 58 calls, 37 in Gulf Lake, 21 in the non-Gulf Lake portions of Mills County. List of the ones that ran over the average response time. You see one was a out-of-county truck coming because the call coincided with the Mills County truck already being in service on another call, and another one was a non-emergency call to the jail for a blood draw out in the county. You can see it's primarily a distance issue, although you can see 2 lift assists, both of which declined treatment or transfer. We do not have the veteran service report either this month. So in our next meeting, we'll look for the tax collector and the veteran service officer report. Number 4, consider an act on outdoor. What?
I need a motion.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Parton. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Then moving on to number 4, consider an act on a ban on outdoor burning. Our current burn ban expires July 12th. That's tomorrow. Given the drought conditions, the hot weather, my proposal was to extend it for another approximately 30 days until the day following the first Commissioners Court meeting in August. There is a proposed order to that effect in your package. Just as background, Governor Abbott Friday afternoon issued a drought emergency for about 160 counties in the state, including Mills County. So it's not just us. There was some rain Saturday, but it sounds very localized. And we are again under a heat advisory and actually a power outage alert for this afternoon. Any discussion on having a burn ban for another 30 days?
Make a motion, we extend the burn ban for 30 days.
I second it.
Motion from Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
So, sir, that it's extended to.
It's written in the document. Okay, number 5 is a discuss potential Windmill Hill. What?
That's right.
I'm sorry.
No, I was talking to Sonia.
Oh, okay. Thought I'd missed something. Number 5, discuss potential Windmill Hill subdivision. Ms. Brooks, this is where if you have those slides, if you would bring one of them up. And Mr. Scott Stiles, if you would, we have a microphone up here. Everybody in the courtroom can hear you just fine, but we have a YouTube broadcast Zoom audience, so you need to be on the mic.
I'm the timekeeper. I'm the timekeeper. If you'll look at me or I'll let you know when we're getting done in 1 minute. Okay.
I'm Gary Stiles, I'm Brazos Valley Property Management, I represent the developers of this piece of property. We're just here to ask the court. We have 2 designs that will fit the way this property lays out, and we're just asking the court, what is their
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're having a hard time hearing you.
Is the microphone turned
Yeah.
on? Okay. You may have to move it closer to your mouth.
How about that?
Jackie, are you hearing that?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay.
We're here with these 2 designs, and we're here to ask the court, what do they think is the best design that they would like to see the subdivision to be laid out as? There's the only 2 ways that we can figure out how to make this property work.
Well, do you want to outline what you see as the problem? I mean, we have an ordinance that
Yes,
specifies
yes.
things, and it's my understanding you,
Either one of these designs will require a variance. Because one of them, this design here, your ordinance says you can only have, I think it's like 2,500 feet of a roadway with a cul-de-sac in it, and that's 7,300 feet to the end. But we have provided 2 turnaround cul-de-sacs in the middle of it that's at the 2,400 mark, that's within the county spec. It will just have to be a variance to ask if we can extend the road all the way to the 7,400 feet.
well, just to clarify, and this is going to turn into a discussion, Ms. Scott. Where the court cannot issue a variance until there's a preliminary plat file.
Yes.
So what we're doing here is not approving a variance. We're not committing to anything. This is a discussion.
Yes.
Just for the benefit of the audience and the commissioners, I'm trying to move the mouse up to the corner. This is Highway 84. This map's actually a little upside down. The property runs on the north side of Highway 84, north of Mullen. And it's just either immediately or shortly past the Carlisle property on the north side of Highway 84, if that helps orient somebody. So the issue is this proposed roadway is, what do you think, 7,000 plus
7,400 feet.
7,400 feet long. And, you know, my inarticulate term would be it's a dead end. It's actually not. There's a little circle and you turn around. You have another proposal, and let me, Jackie, bring up the other one. This is a attempt to rejigger the roadway, changes the lots a lot. So you have a circulation pattern and then a stub on the end of it that
Yes,
is how long?
it's 2,400 feet long.
Okay,
All this lays out within the criteria of the county's rules and regulations, with the exception of the interior lots in that square are 5 acres instead of 10 acres.
well, they could be 10 if you didn't have that divider in the middle
Yeah,
of
if we
it.
take that down, if we take it down to a 10 acre lot in there, then it doesn't justify putting extra roadway inside there.
What do you mean doesn't justify?
It doesn't, the value market doesn't bring. that.
Okay, now, I believe in our discussion on the variance section of our subdivision ordinance, economics are not part of the reason for variance. Jackie, let's bring up the area map from MCAM. Okay, this, and maybe we should have started here. This shows you the property. It shows some adjacent county roads. And I'm not sure what this is, whether that's a private road or an easement up there, but there are, that's the nearby road system.
County Road 189, where's that? 185.
189 is the one, I think where that Ledson machine shop is. Between that or Carlisle's Road.
I think it's the road in front of Carlisle's.
Yeah,
Because
maybe 185 is one.
185 is the one that goes back to 574, so it'd be the one that runs by Carlisle's.
My purpose in showing this, besides orienting the court to the property, was to show that the whole issue of having this long dead end road or the need for variance is due in part by not tying it in or through some relatively nearby roads.
The road that you're talking about that shows to be a private lane.
Yeah,
up there at the
Up
top,
here, yeah.
that's nearly got to be the one that runs through that other subdivision.
Is there a name on that other subdivision?
It's Craig Smith. It's the illegal subdivision.
Okay.
Do y'all realize, do you realize you went back up to it?
Yes.
And that is what we're looking at.
Yes.
There.
Mr. Hale, do you have any observations for the court?
What is the regulation that we're wanting to variance from? Is it cul-de-sac?
It's where it doesn't, a road cannot dead end more than 2,500 feet.
Yeah, dead end or ended in cul-de-sac.
Or
You
ended
can't
in
have more than 2,500 feet.
So there's a $2,500 feet limitation on how long a road that ends in cul-de-sac can be.
That's correct.
So that's the variance.
Yes,
And that's why the second option you said wouldn't require a variance because it only has 2,400.
it would require, we would ask for one if we could bring the lots down to 5 acres inside the square.
So I'm not that familiar with the regulations, I'm sorry. So there's an acreage limitation on.
I don't, my recollection is there isn't an acreage
I don't
limitation.
remember there being.
No, there's not. Now, there is in state law, if you were trying to be exempt from plating requirements and
Right,
have
this is not-
everything on a county road, that's correct. It's irrelevant here.
Well, I don't think there is a limitation on the size of the lots. So
No,
the second, what I'm trying to get at, the second option wouldn't require a variance. Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
Am I interpreting that correct?
I think that's correct.
well, this was just up here for discussion. It's not,
Go back, and if you don't mind, go back to that second drawing that you had up there. Thank you, Jackie.
I may be way off course. Do you think 5 acre lots would sell out in country?
That's what they think. They think that it gives them, they think that it gives them a variety of the people that want to live in the country, but they can't afford the 20 acre lots. But yet they're encompassed in with them, and that way they don't have a big massive subdivision. and still get the country feel. That's what.
I would call that a pretty massive subdivision out between Mullen and Zephyr.
Well, I mean, we're just discussing this
Yeah.
and nothing we say is binding until there's a filed application and we vote on it. But I'm disinclined to be granting major variances to an ordinance that's been in place just a few months. That's just my feeling. Anything that the rest of the court would like to add?
I think it's familiar with this. This is the first time I've seen it, really. So,
Commissioner Williams, any thoughts?
I'm just still processing it. It still looks like a long ways, even though you put that in there, you're still, if you buy that lot in the back, I guess you can go out either on the left or right if you buy the far end one. And for emergency reasons,
Yes,
you're still trapped in there.
yes, it is,
But at least that way you have, I mean, you have two options there, so it's better than the first one. Is what I'm looking at. And if, I mean, of course, we don't care about, we don't care if you sell it 5 acres or 10
Sure.
acres. I mean, that's up to you.
And that's the reason.
That's like
We're not here for any kind of approval. We're just here for direction. What
Now-
the county would like to see happen.
would like to remind you that there's a groundwater study requirement.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there wells on that place? Existing wells?
There's a house in front,
Used to be.
Yeah.
right there.
Okay.
The house is done.
I guess that's the barn, there's a barn.
So there's something like that.
Okay, do you, this, we've discussed it, you've got
That's fine.
our views and if you know, there's a process for filing a
Yes,
preliminary plat when you're
we
ready.
Give us direction. and
Okay.
the county would like us to go in, that's the county direction we would like to take.
Okay,
Just for a little more discussion, because we have another one that is, I don't guess it's presenting problems. Are they gonna try to, or are y'all gonna try to make this acceptable ag value?
Yes.
Because we've got one over the other side of Pretty, what they're doing now. They got their idle year notice. We're getting deer feeders out the wazoo put up, thinking that's gonna help them. One of the tracts of land is already, some of the guys at Pretty cut and baled hay off of the 20-acre tract. Well, that puts that tract of land back in ag value for 30 years. And it also, if you're talking about possibly upping your tax revenue, it don't at all. The only way that it's gonna up tax revenue is for them to build. And y'all had said the other day that y'all require building within 2 years.
They will all be required to build a house to be certified.
What if they don't?
Then we will repurchase the land back from them and turn around and sell it to somebody. We won't allow them to have this as raw land.
Because
That'll be written in the ordinances.
that's a huge deal, because I've already talked to, not specifically to y'all, but for the subdivision deal. That puts that tract land back in ag value for the next 3 years since they cut bale, several bales I had. It makes that 20-acre tract, the taxes on it ag wise will be $64 a year.
Right.
So that's not helping the county situation. That nothing to do with y'all, but I'm just telling the people, if we're in discussion, if these subdivisions are gonna happen, there's gotta be something done with them, because we're not increasing the acreage in Mills County by any acres. I'm through.
okay. Okay, well, thank you
I
for,
thank y'all for your staff.
okay. Number 6, consider an act on election judges for the 22-23 election cycle. We have a proposal in here from our county clerk and I guess the chief election administrator. Is Scott? Oops, did I skip one?
No, that's it.
Okay, yeah.
Do I have any questions?
The
There's,
thing to point out is there are two alternates on the bottom of the back page.
so what we ran into last year is I didn't approve enough alternates. And the alternates and the judges are supposed to be approved by commissioner's court. I was able to get someone that you had previously approved to sub in when someone got sick all of a sudden due to early voting. So I'm just trying to build the bench a little bit here so that I have people that can come in when emergencies happen and life happens.
Everybody agree to serve?
They have all agreed to serve.
Good.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the election judges and polling places. For 2023.
Actually, I think all we've got on the agenda is to approve the election judges.
Okay, I just said on this.
Yeah. You don't need an approval of the polling places at this point, do you?
Just the election.
Okay.
This is just a document we use and it's up on our website so that everyone knows. So that's how it's done.
So my motion,
So yeah, we have a motion from Commissioner Wright to approve the election judges. Who second? Commissioner Parkin. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Number 7, budget amendment expenditures from the sheriff's forfeiture fund. Chief Deputy Green, I didn't see you come in. Are you wanting to discuss this?
No, I just came to,
Okay. Included in the package is email, which everybody on the court has received from the sheriff. If you sort through all the rhetoric, it's informing us, or we're proposing to use forfeiture fund money in the sheriff's office to purchase a drone for DPS, for regional DPS. I've talked to the regional DPS office in Lampasas. They cover I think it's a 4-county area. They would send one of their troopers to training. You have to be a licensed drone operator through the FAA. And then they would keep the drone in the office at the Mills County Law Enforcement Center. And it would have a primary use of mapping serious accidents, and the sales pitch from them was right now they have to either shut down or restrict traffic on a roadway while they survey, skid marks, vehicle locations, whatever is related to the accident. With this drone, they no longer have to do this. So there would not be the traffic disruption during an accident investigation. I mean, for that part of the accident investigation. The ancillary use of it is it has thermal camera capacity and could be used to try and find people that were either lost, missing, hiding from us, whatever. And they would make it available to support needs of our local law enforcement. I asked if any of the other local counties were doing this, and the answer was no, not yet. So it's possible our drone could be doing accident investigations in nearby county. I don't know how frequently the other side of it would be needed in Mills County. In the last 3 or 4 months, I can think of maybe 3 times where we have had runaways, missing persons, or fugitives that this technology either helped or would have helped. So that's the proposal. I'll tell you that the forfeiture fund is a special use fund. The sheriff is, under my reading of it, has the sole discretion on what it's spent for, but the commissioner's court has to approve the budget for which it's spent. Now, the way I read it, and I'll call on the county attorney here in a minute, this isn't the budget with the capital B. This isn't the county budget. It's the budget for the expenditure. And the invoices in here from the sheriff show exactly how they propose to spend the money. The money is in the account. There's Commissioner Hale, do you have any input?
Attorney down.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you're right.
I don't get a vote, no more. I would, I noticed the sheriff is here, and I was looking back here, and Ms. Campbell, but correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the Forfeiture Fund is administered by the district attorney and the sheriff. And that those funds are subject to their expenditures under that account, are subject to their control, and not the commissioner's court. The commissioner's court doesn't have anything to do with it. And am I not correct in that?
That's exactly what the special use book says, but I'm not sure how much the invoice is.
Okay,
And I'm looking at the forfeiture budget and some of the lines are already overspent, so are we moving, I just don't know yet, are we moving funds from the sheriff's department over to forfeiture, or are we doing a budget?
no, how much money is in the forfeiture account?
Well, it's not how much is in the account, it's how much you have budgeted for the expense. You can't spend money you haven't budgeted. You can.
That's what,
budget to spend next
I
year.
mean, your county attorney is saying, my read on it was that there's different types of budgets. There's the county budget, and then there's budgets for the expenditures, which I think the sheriff's invoices represent that budget. County Attorney Hale just said that the sheriff and the DA have the sole discretion on spending monies in the account. So the question becomes, are there monies in the account?
It's right at 10,000.
How much money in the aggregate is in the forfeiture
There's
account?
about $44,000, but how do you spend that money without it being expended in the expenses line? I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that scenario. But yes, that's what this book says, that it's up to the DA and the sheriff how they spend the funds, it's just not.
Right. So that's.
So what are we being asked?
Well, this, I mean, everything I know is what you see in these emails from the sheriff and what I reported to you from talking to DPS. So maybe, Sheriff, would you care to come up and help us with this?
I just spoke with the county attorney to correct him on one thing. Yes, it's the sole use for the sheriff's office for law enforcement purposes, but it still has to come through this court for approval. So under red of the statute. So that means y'all have to approve it before this, or it has to already be budgeted, basically.
And so since it's not already budgeted, we just gotta approve it.
Right,
Correct, is what you're saying.
correct.
Yeah, the way I read the state guidance is the court, we can't spend the money, and there's legal things that the sheriff cannot do with this money. But other than that, it's his discretion, but we have to approve the budget on how it's spent. This was the discussion the treasurer and I were having. I don't take that to be that we have to have it in the annual county budget. My read is if he wants to spend $50,000, he comes in with a budget for how he's got to spend, how he proposes to spend the $50,000, and that's what we're approving. The proposal here is a drone for the DPS. It's three or four different invoices.
Is it our drone or is it the DPS's drone?
It will be our drone assigned to DPS. They're gonna send the individuals to training to get licensed to operate it. And then whenever we need it, they'll be on call.
So it'll stay in our county, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Do we have a drone?
we do, but it's about on its last leg.
But is do we have people that are licensed to operate yet? Or,
We fall, it was under, no. Yeah, because ours doesn't meet the criteria. It was one of the first generations.
It's pretty small, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it meets.
And it doesn't stay up for maybe 8 to 10 minutes. But this thing that they're looking at, you're looking at probably 45 minutes an hour, depending on wind and weather and all that.
what do you think? I mean, Brown County has one, right?
I don't know.
Do you think, I mean, traffic accident, it's to relieve where they can do their stuff by drone rather than on foot, right? I mean.
Yeah, that's the main way because of the programming and stuff, they're able to scale more, but it also helps, there's software to help do crime scenes and stuff like that. So they'll be available for call out on crime scene, searches, fatal crashes is normally when they use the scale.
I guess my biggest concern is because we work on them every day. It sounds terrible. If you don't have the congestion around crime scene or accident, then people have gotten where they pay absolutely no attention. Not that I'm care less and driving one way or the other, but you might need the congestion around an accident scene to slow people down.
I mean, I think you would still have DPS and maybe local law enforcement there with flashers on.
Yeah, they're.
What you're gonna not have is that volunteer fire department having to close the highway while somebody walks down the middle of it with a wheel to measure skid marks.
So, but without that, you can have the traffic still driving 75.
Well, by
Yeah,
law,
not-
they have to slow down if you're not to go out. You know what it says.
We don't control that. I mean,
No, it's a convenience issue.
Well, I was just making sure that we weren't buying the state a new toy that would be used at the border or something. That's
Well,
only my concern.
on 183, I've had 2 fatalities out there, and I know they've had to block the road down. On the third one, on County Road 410, we had a situation out there that they tried to find somebody. Now, and I know they had to close all that area down, and I know this evidently would be a benefit to the sheriff's office and DPS if we had one. In Mills County, we're talking Mills County, so I don't see a problem.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just the infrared or the heat sensor deal. I've seen a time or two where the SWAT team was able to come in in Mills or Hamilton County and locate an individual with the infra or the heat sensor deal.
That's how we found the last individual with the deputy involved shooting a couple of months back. That we had to wait on DPS aircraft for about 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it turned out he wasn't but about 60 yards in the brush next to the car that we left.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound like there's an issue on what we're doing. So we got to sort through the issue on the budget side. And it's going to be whether or not we need to amend. It's listed to do it, so we can, whether or not this is a budget amendment in the forfeiture budget or is just an approval for the budget for the drone purchase.
He had $70,000 in his budget, is that correct, about, Van, and that's what you're doing?
No, this is
we're
a
talking
this is a
forfeiture.
forfeiture. This is not a.
Forfeiture. This isn't money that the county can use for anything. It's strictly a thing from seizures.
I want to interject one more thing. It's hard to budget a forfeiture account because you don't know if and when you're going to forfeit property. That's just, it comes and goes. So that's something like if you got that money there, then yeah, you want to utilize it. Most of the time, we try to keep it down because when grants come out, that's the first question that's asked is if you have any funds in the chapter 59 account. So the more you have, the less you get grants.
I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing of this situation, so had I had time to do the legwork with other treasurers and stuff, I could have asked this question.
the limitation says must submit a budget for expenditure of money. I don't know if that means like what we do already. I don't know how you extend that money out of the line and then have that count. Have a line overdrawn, you have to find the money somewhere.
Well, the money is in the forfeiture account, so worst case, we will have to come back later with some sort of budget amendment to move it from forfeitures to forfeiture equipment. Is that what you're saying?
What is it under?
It's a special use fund.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
What's the
What's the
account number?
number?
Yeah, I mean, to the sheriff's point, since when you have money that you can't anticipate coming in, it's like an insurance claim or a number of other things. The way you deal with it is through a special budget amendment. Say, okay, we got this money in, we wasn't any way to anticipate it. So we're gonna have a special amendment, show it in the budget, and then we, part of that, you spend it or you spend it later. So my proposal would be to approve the, I'm a little caught because I think the county attorney's telling us we don't approve the expenditure. Is that right, Mr. Hale?
I'm still not convinced, but I'm not the further. Right, it doesn't have anything to do with budget.
Right.
It's a special use fund for forfeiture of assets, usually through drug arrest, which I came from. I've got a hot check fund, county attorney has a hot check fund.
Right.
And then the treasurer's office keeps that in an account, a hot check account. And if I want to expend money from that account, I write her a letter and tell her to write a check to so-and-so. We got Trooper Owens wanted a device that gauges the window, the darkness of window tint. And he hit me up about buying one, and it wasn't anything that exists. But I did, wrote a letter to Serena, what she wrote a check, paid for it. Didn't require him, or I didn't ask for it. It certainly can't hurt anything.
Well, so,
Approval.
Okay.
Judge,
So I think that would be the safe route to go.
Okay.
But in my opinion, it doesn't really have anything to do with budget. It's just spending money out of this forfeiture.
Where does the forfeiture money come from? Sale of vehicles or?
Well, I mean, if they do a drug stop and they find $1 million of cash in the trunk, then we got that $1 million once it's no longer evidence. And then it becomes a fight between, or an agreement between the sheriff and the DA on how they divide it. At the same time, that car that the money was in, there's a civil action goes through to seize it, and then it is sold at auction and the money goes to the forfeiture fund. So it can be either money or stuff, cars, guns, whatever they seize, that goes through the forfeiture process in court and then is sold and ends up in this money.
There's actually a district court case. The district attorney files a lawsuit, and you'll see them in the courthouse over here. It'll say, the state of Texas versus 2015 Chevrolet pickup is the way they're styled. And they go through the process in district court. The district judge signs the judgment authorizing the DA through the sheriff to sell this vehicle, whatever money it brings goes into the
Forfeiture.
forfeiture.
So
So it's not, doesn't have anything to do with tax generation or budget.
But the money for this drone is in the forfeiture.
yes,
so,
Yeah,
All
a
right.
separate special use account in the treasury.
so Judge, there is $42,336.78 in that account. In that forfeiture receipts. We budgeted this last cycle in equipment line item, $2,000. So it looked like to me, all we'd have to do is a budget amendment, is what you're saying. And that's the way I kind of agree with what your statement is since there's already a line item there to buy it.
Yeah.
But
Okay, let me try this then. I move approval of the purchase of the drone as proposed from the forfeiture fund and a special budget amendment as appropriate within the forfeiture fund account.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
So the way you worded that, the special budget amendment is not gonna come back to commissioners.
That's correct.
You've already approved it.
We've approved it. The only thing we didn't approve was what amount to put in it, but it's Summer and I'll work out. I mean, the treasurer and I will come up with what amount to move. And I mean, the things you can do in forfeitures, I think, are training, equipment.
Equipment repairs and supplies.
You cannot use it for operating expenses. You cannot use it for salaries, and you cannot use it for political contributions. So we can't cut the sheriff's budget and say, okay, you can operate out of your forfeiture account. You can't do that.
And if you can get in trouble.
Well, okay, yeah,
it's like speeding in the.
right. Okay. So 8, we're been asked to designate as scrap from the sheriff's office a vacuum. And I thought there was a clock, but I don't see it.
I make a motion that we designate the sheriff's office Bissell Tower Forge vacuum and scrap.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor of designating of the motion to designate the Power Force vacuum and scrap, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 9, consider an act Tyler Technology Agreement conversion, Mills County open public records. We sent around the agreement electronically. So that means everybody but Commissioner Wright probably got it. It was 85 pages long and hated to do that to you. So I also included in the package a one-page summary, and the clerk can speak to this, but basically this is paired with a conversion we approved maybe a month or more ago, taking the court records and moving them into Tyler Technology with the ongoing operating expense license agreement being paid for by the state. And the county was asked to pay for the conversion expense if we elected to convert back in current records as opposed to just going forward, which we did that. The other side of this is an effort to get all of the clerk's office on one software vendor. Right now, they're using LGS, and with the court records go into Tyler Technology pursuant to the state contract. The proposal here is to move open public records to Tyler Technology. This carries what's an open public record? It's basically everything down there in the clerk's office except for the legal records. It's the commissioner's court records, deed records, birth and marriage licenses, subdivision records, death records. I mean, everything else that people come in to look at. There is a one-time, the components of this, there's a one-time conversion charge of $39,750 and an annual licensing fee of $14,500. There were some minor other costs, some $1,900 saved for scanning equipment and $2,000 for training. The proposal is to approve entering into this agreement with Tyler Technology with the funding of it coming not from the county operating budget, but, this is dedicated fund day here. This is from the dedicated funds in the clerk's office. And you can see in the final bullets, there's a conversion cost would go to the Record Management Preservation Fund. That's Fund 43. It's got 51,000 in it and can only be used for this type of, or for records preservation. And the conversion cost would go from to the archives fee for Fund 42, which has 64,000. So at one level, this is big money. At another level, it's not taxpayer money. It's money that can only be used for records management purposes. And that's exactly what this is. Ms. Scott, I didn't mean to give your pitch, but would you like to add to that?
The cost for the scanner actually had included in this year's budget, so if this is approved, we'll purchase that scanner. One of our scanners is so old, it's not supported any longer, we're just still using it. But if we go to the new system, it's not gonna be compatible. So Joy and I both have scanners that we recently purchased. I knew that the other scanner was probably not gonna last very long, so I included it in this year's budget. So I would spend that money out of the current budget, it would be something that would be included in next year's budget.
And of course, approved the budget or for next year.
So they approved for the scanner, they haven't, this is special use funds that's just sitting there. That should pay for that.
So if we approve of the agreement, it's still gonna have to come back to court, because this goes back to what Sonia was saying a while ago. That line item doesn't have that much money in it, so we will have to do
Yeah.
And
Right.
And I have already coordinated in the budget process meetings to pull that out in next budget cycle.
okay, so it won't hit this.
This is,
Okay, okay, I'm
the
sorry.
billing for this will be next
Okay. I'm
next
sorry.
budget
Didn't catch
cycle,
that.
which is
So
in
the
process.
1,900 would be in this budget, the 39 and 14 would be in next budget.
And the 2,000 for training is for your employees training?
Yes, still be on-site training.
That's the only question I had, us approving something that's not in the budget.
Well, the different, I mean,
But we're not approving it, we're approving the
we're
contract.
being asked to approve the contract. Now, the contract includes the obligation to pay the money. But like all governmental contracts, the obligation to pay the money is contingent upon it being budgeted. So there's a little bit of a circular out in this. But since it's coming from dedicated use funds, that's not money that we budget to create. The money's already in those funds. And that's not money we can use for general operations of the county to do anything else with. So and that's how we got that money. It just has accumulated over the years from filing fees, court transactions. And this would spend some.
And you're good with everything in the contract and all that? And you've read all 100 or 83 pages? Because I'll be honest, I didn't read all 83 pages.
I've read it, asked the judge to back me up in reading it. We talked about a few things. I've also called the contact, got a couple of things clarified. Because the first payment date was prior to October 1st, and I told them that we would not be able to make that payment. It's not part of our budget for the cycle. They agreed, they wrote the wording so that the first payment's not due October 1st. And they think that they can have us up and running on this in the fall, which will be great. We
Now,
already had a conversation with LGS. LGS knows we're gonna be transitioning away if this gets approved.
And so our current payment for LGS is 16, so this is actually a little cheaper
Correct.
for you.
yeah, now that LGS payment will go away. Now, it may not go away initially. Ms. Scott wants to keep them in place, at least on a reduced basis, till this conversion is successful.
But we're gonna talk about that in budget.
Yeah,
I don't want to cut LGS off, because what if there is a delay with this other conversion? And so we wouldn't be, we may have a month or two that we have both systems running, which can be a mess, but we're gonna figure it out.
So this pertains to the deal that we approved last time. the
It's from the same
57,000.
vendor, but it's different records. So court records are housed under the Uniform Case Management System, which is what you have already approved. And that is what the Office of Court Administration, the state of Texas is saying, I'm not gonna have 50 different or 254 different looking reports. You're gonna have to go to one of these three vendors, and we've picked one vendor, and we're moving that way. We've already approved that agreement. The same company that does that has a function to do all other records, which is all of your commissioner's court. So when y'all come to us and say, when did this go to court? Who voted for it? Who voted against it? We're gonna be looking at it in a different system.
Does that mean like the packages that
Yes.
each commissioner got, that will be scanned and in this system?
Which right now we scan them and put them in LGS, right? It's the same but different. Right now we use LGS for our court records, we use LGS for our public records, we use it for vital statistics. We just want to keep the same, but now with a new vendor. We've already approved to do the vendor for our court records. Now we need to move our other records to the same vendor. There's my.
Yeah, I personally, if the money's not there, I personally think this needs to come back up when the budget turns.
That's what I feel about it.
I'm sorry. I mean, because you're saying we've got a fund balance there, everybody else's fund and precincts goes away September 30th and the new fund comes in.
This won't go away.
There's a difference
But
between
how does one
the general
department have it
fund.
and the other one no?
It's the way the state government code works. The dedicated use funds come from specific revenue sources. The legislature's decided it's every type of this type of transaction. A nickel goes here and a dollar goes there, $5 goes here, the Crime Stoppers fee and the records management fee and the courthouse security fee. And that goes in those funds, and it can only be spent on things the legislature said it could be spent on, unlike, say, the precinct one budget, where you've got materials, equipment, salaries, and at the end of the year, whatever's not spent, you start over the new year with a new budget. That's-
Money goes back to the.
Yeah, this is not part of the general fund. It's like the sheriff's forfeiture fund. I mean, it comes from other sources, can only be spent for certain sources. There's no way to take this money and put it in the general fund.
But what I'm saying too, that Bill said, why don't we approve it now instead of in October? On the new budget.
So if I came to you and so we didn't have this in the budget for last year because we didn't know the uniform case management system was gonna happen. So if the state comes to me and says, Sonia, you have to change, and I don't have it in my budget, but I've got it in a special use fund, and the state's telling me I have to change. I can go to that special use fund, we can do a special budget amendment, just like what we just approved for the sheriff.
Yeah, that's what
We just did this for the sheriff for a drug. I want to do the same thing. I've got some money set over here that can only be used on certain things. And at the end of the budget on September 30th, that money is still there. September 30th to October 1, it's still there. If you don't use all your road material funds, it goes back to zero. In October 1, she'll put that money back over into your account on what the new budget is. Whatever my balance is on September 30th is going to be the same balance on October 1, because this money can only be used for certain things.
But-
Maybe where the confusion is your money is coming from taxpayer dollars, whereas their money is coming from, this is like coming from seizures. Hers is coming from different kinds of filing fees. It's coming from different sources, which makes it special.
Yeah.
But the
So,
50-something thousand that we approved last time was also already there.
Yes, but she has two accounts that have that money there.
Well, to address some of the commissioners' questions, tell us the operational impact of not entering into this agreement until October versus now.
It's delaying us.
When, if you did it now, when would you start on training and converting?
Closer into the fall.
If they're talking about having us up and running sometime in the fall of 2022, we have to start getting ready for that now.
And if you wait and do the contract in fall in, say, October, that
Okay.
pushes you to,
Well, one, you're gonna push up against elections. You're also gonna push up against the other uniform case management system that we're gonna be working on. And you're pushing us to the end of the year, which we are busier at the end of the year. And so now is a better time for us to have that time to go do that. You can't be out there, grading the roads or whatever when it's powder and we don't have rain. Right now, we have a really good window to get working on this. And just know that it also pushes over the time that we have to continue paying for LGS. Because it pushes back from this, because I'm up and running, and ready to go in the office. Additional
It's how it's
time.
any different from the forfeiture.
We're not.
Yeah, it
out
looks
there
to me like
in
it's
the
same
powder if
thing.
We don't have money in our budget to do it.
If you had a special use fund though, which you do
Yeah,
have,
but if we have a special use fund, you better believe it.
so that's just what I'm.
I just don't see how this is any different from the forfeiture fund. It's just approved.
it's not.
But I don't see how it's any different from the 50-something thousand that we approved for the other bill.
Which was approved.
Yes, I don't see how this is any different.
It's not.
So why didn't we approve it all at once?
You did approve the 50,000.
The reason we didn't do it all at once, Commissioner Parkin, is that we did not have this contract in front of us at the time. We mentioned it was discussed, but it was not presented for approval because the contract did not get submitted by the vendor. And that's
Do we have the contract now?
yes.
Yeah, you got it.
When your electronics come back, it's 85 pages and it's in green.
Well, I heard y'all mention 85 pages. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah,
It's in your email.
It's in your email. I can get it to you.
Yeah, mine, it's all down. I mean, I hadn't had anything, I couldn't get anything.
I did not know you were down. No, we have an 85-page contract. Just trying to save you from getting overrun with paper.
I understand.
And I believe if the sign your folders up there, because there's a place for you to sign on up, there may be an 85-page contract up there on that bench right now.
I didn't see
It's
it.
in the.
it might, she's saying it might be in that red folder.
Has been approved this. I hadn't looked at it.
Well,
I mean, we're probably,
is there a motion on the table?
I make a motion that we approve of the agreement with Tyler Technologies for the conversion to Mills County Public Records.
I'll second that motion. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
yeah, I mean, maybe we're not understanding the whole deal. I mean, it looks to me like it is a continuation of what we approved before.
Yes, it's related.
Related to two different types of records.
If it saves time, but I don't know.
There's a process, there's all this action and pulling, and then they have to map it. And I know that's crazy language, but there's a lot of pre-prep work to actually get the function started. And that's what she's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I can understand that. I just, it's not, I guess we didn't see that. It's not being blindsided by it by any means. But you're also between the two, and I understand the funds are there. You're talking about over $100,000 for technology,
A little bit less than 100,000, you're talking around 80.
thereabouts.
And that's about what stuff we're in track of, software. That's why I haven't changed it.
Other discussion. So we have a motion on the floor to approve. Let me call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So we have 3 ayes and 1 nay. And Okay, number 10, commissioners requesting reports. Commissioner Wright.
Tex dot delivered material last week to precinct. Each precinct got 7 loads in the pile out there, and I looked at your letter, and that's what they said, that they approved $13,000 load. But anyway, we have four piles and 7, each precinct had received 7 loads. Asked me how many yards or how many tons, I have no idea. I didn't see any tickets. Tex dot keeps those. All they do is keep up the load count and let them dump it. We've had an electric problem out of our precinct barn. I asked Guy Barn to come out and look at it, and he did, and he found a problem. And over 65 years in that barn, there's been lots of hands in the electrical stuff out there. And his recommendation is to rewire that thing. And I don't have a problem with that. Try to find some money in this. We're going to try to do that. But he got us back up. I think there's about 3 switches that burn out or something, but he got those fixed.
Was this about the time the email quit working?
Everything, I don't have anything out that's barn. But anyway, I appreciate him coming out and wiring that for us, and getting it more for us. Our pickup and our service truck, they both went down. We had to have them fixed, and that came to nearly $5,000 for those vehicles. We received a permit for a 10-horn on County Road 327. I'm working with it. Sheriff office called me Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. There seemed to be a storm that came through Pleasant Grove area. It was Saturday, and we had a tree not on county right of way, but it's on private, that's blocking the road. And we went out Sunday and put cones out, and we got traffic by. We cut enough to get traffic by it. And we're out this morning cleaning the rest of it up. And I guess that's about it for me.
Commissioner Parkman.
Believe it or not, we had a good bit of washout over on the east side of Pretty that joins Hamilton County. Week and a half ago, we're working on getting the roads rebuilt. It was some of the roads that Blattner had actually put base on, but we about got it done. Did get a call last week from the guy at Midland with the truck. As soon as he calls, okay, if we're gonna run out there and at least look at the truck. Talked to the guys this morning. I don't know whether we'll do it or not. Probably wait and see how we get along this week. Possibly going back to 8-hour days, starting at 6:30 in the morning and stopping at 2:30. It's stuff on tires, and stuff on equipment, and stuff on people. When you start getting up around that 110 degrees, it's a little more than what you want. So I don't know what we'll do on that yet, but that's about all I got. Plus the guy was here with the discussion on subdivision. Looks like we're gonna have another one of those working.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams.
Did some blading on 432 and 550. After about an inch of rain, I guess we could say, we got up there, but it dried up so quick we didn't get any more done than that. We worked some back slopes on County Road 433. We're hauling some material from Benny Cox pit today out of Gritty. We're going to test this material because if it does like I want it to do, and it'll be closer to pit for me to take to County Road 449, which is outside of Zephyr. For me, it'd be a lot closer on that route to go to 549, what did I say? 449, 549. And let's see here. Worked on a couple pieces of equipment last week and did yearly maintenance on those. Only thing, Dale, I'd like to use the second dump truck. We cannot use the belly dump this week because I know you're fixing a haul unless you're doing it when you do it.
We should be finished with it today.
Have you got When do you want the double belly dumps go? Yeah, okay. I didn't know if maybe we might use it this week and then we'd be through for a while, so.
Yeah. We should be done with it today.
Well,
Actually,
I'll actually let you later about it, but anyway. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, I mentioned the governor declaring a drought emergency that included Mills County. I've asked our extension agent to see if we can find out what, if anything, that does for local producers, and to the extent it's anything specific, we'll circulate it. We have county court this week. The county attorney and I will be in this courtroom, will be tied up most of Wednesday morning. And the surveyor has staked the potential four corners of an EMS building in the impound yard area, generally behind the law enforcement center. I believe Commissioner Guerin and Parton were out there early on looking at it. Guy Burns met the appraiser with the surveyor out there when it was done. Commissioner Williams and I went out and looked at it last week. I'd invite you, if you're curious, to go out there and take a look. It's more or less parallel to Justice Drive. It's set back far enough that there's a drainage way there and hard edge to clear that. We can, it's pretty obvious there's going to be some drainage work required. The treasurer has asked us to come up with a line item so we can put in the ARA budget the different categories for what might cost. And the next step would be, I mean, obviously, at some point it's going to be moving impound yard fences. It generally goes some distance, say 10 feet. I'm not sure whether it's south or west, but past the fence line of the impound yard. But there's still basing material out there before it drops off into the Johnson grass. Now, what's staked is not, it's the building dimensions plus 10 feet, because they wanted 10 feet of pad around the actual dimensions of the slab. So the next thing that's going to happen on that front is we will get the vendor to come in and address the court with a proposed contract and pricing and scheduling. But it will still come back to the county doing the site work. So there's a, invite everybody to take a look at it. It'll make the discussion when we have it in court a little more informed. And that's all I've got.
How about the sale of the other old MS?
I've got nothing new on that. The last word was what I reported is that the hospital district has referred it all to their real estate attorney to draft a resolution in correction. Okay, is there a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion, we're done.
A motion from Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
Thank you.
Second from Commissioner Williams. All in favor, say aye.